In vlog discussion 10, I'm going to start off by talking about the essay Wall of Sound, The iPod Has Changed the Way We Listen to Music by Nikhil Saval. So his main audience for this essay are older generations or people that are interested in that type of culture. And he spends a lot of time discussing music from the 1970s and how, before this rise of technology, music was able to connect people better because they were able to connect at a deeper level than it does now, because people would talk about it. They would listen to CDs together or vinyls, etc. Now everyone just puts in their earbuds and listens to music through an app. So it doesn't have that same appeal where you can make connections with other people. In the next essay, The Judgment of Themis, the author Neil Postman's main audience is basically people who use technology a lot in their day-to-day life, and who are constantly surrounded by technology. He brings up a lot of philosophers such as Socrates and Plato in order to strengthen his argument that basically technology has negative effects on humanity and basic human functioning and behaviors, because we get so engrossed in technology that we fail to really pay attention to what's going on around us. In the third essay, Gin, Television, and Social Surplus, the author Clay Shirky talks about how their audience is basically that younger generations who use social media and television a lot, and it's catered towards people who grew up with this technology and these services and basically doesn't know what life was like without it. And they talk about how people get so used to social media and it becomes a part of life, and it's hard to let go of once it's ingrained. So it's basically becomes a necessity because people become so reliant and attached, especially the people who grew up in a world with it and don't know what it was like to live in a world without technology. And in the last essay, Love the One You're Near by Jennifer Blyer, she talks, her main audience is basically people who use or are interested in using online dating apps, and she talks about how the rise of online dating apps and the use of them has led to what is known as hookup culture. It prevents people who want long-term genuine relationships from finding people who also want the same thing. So she basically is discussing the pros and cons of online dating. And then in chapter 7 of the Rhetorical Act, called The Resources of Language, it starts by basically saying that language refers to verbal symbols, and this can also include symbols that are based off of space, movement, sound, time, etc. So the first dimension of language is known as naming. So naming is basically how we're able to notice and recognize certain things in ourselves or in the world. And names are signs of interest and relevance. And the second dimension of language is abstracting, and abstracting basically is when we leave out details, and this could be, for example, in a title. The third dimension of language is known as negating. So this is when we say something is. Whenever we say something is, we are also saying what it is not. And negating is also involved in abstracting, and it underlies a lot of comparisons and contrasts, and it's also a basis for figurative analogies. This chapter also talks about different writing styles. So there's formal versus informal, precise versus ambiguous, literal versus figurative, and economy versus redundancy. And it also talks about how strategies are plans of actions and how they are part of rhetorical intervention.